Well, good evening, everyone. This is going to be, I think, a relatively brief video. This is going to, it's mostly being prompted by the realization that I'm not going to get able to cover this topic quite in as much detail as I would like, but I consider it really important information that I wanted to put out there. It has to do with World War II revisionism, which I think is some of the most important information people can have regarding public debate in the United States. Just to rehash it very quickly, I think World War II is the linchpin and almost to a degree the only support for the new civic religion, the competing civic religion in the United States. We've got the founding fathers, classically liberal Constitution. I know we all have qualms about it, but Bill of Rights, kind of essentially libertarian, largely libertarian, if not anarcho-capitalist. Although the Declaration of Independence kind of gets close there a few times. Civic religion, which is still rhetorically very powerful and respected by a lot of people, at least parts of it are. Some parts more than others, certainly. Other parts are essentially ignored. But then there's a mutually exclusive competing civic religion. That's the one where the role of the state in society is not only expansive, it's presumptively good. The burden of proof is on anybody who wants to argue against its expansion and utilization of force. The complete inverse of the previous philosophy. I say the previous philosophy, not necessarily the way the state was actually operating. I don't want to say that, although it was closer to that end in the, say, the 18th or 19th century than it is today. And another reason it's so important is because there's so much actual history about World War II that is ignored. It's not disputed. It's not like this is a theory that can't be backed up. It's stuff that is known that is simply omitted from the narrative, and so it is omitted from people's understanding. Now, there's plenty of mainstream historians who are aware of this. There are books published to this effect fairly regularly, but the stuff that really gets promoted the most by the government and by the media is the narrative of we're minding our own business, we're the good guys, it was the good war, it was an example of the efficacy and effectiveness of government when we all come together, of state power, and so many other things, of good results, that it was a war that had to be fought, that's an unquestionably moral crusade when it was the bloodiest war in human history. And although there were certain results that weren't bad, relatively speaking, there were many other results that were quite atrocious, and those are essentially omitted. Now, this is prompted because I did a video in September called Hitler's Declaration of War. Why did Hitler declare war? The idea being that Hitler was going out of his way not to declare war with the United States, to be very conciliatory to the United States. This is well known. This is not really disputed, although your average American doesn't necessarily know this. It's not something that's disputed in the historical record. And then after Pearl Harbor happens on December 7th. On December 11th, Hitler gives a speech, and this is now called the Declaration of War. And so on September 12th or 14th, I forget the exact date, the United States declared war on Germany in response to this declaration of war that Hitler put forth. So, Hitler kind of tied America's hands into declaring war. At the time, the United States at the very least would go to war with Japan, but it seemed very logical, because why would Hitler want to start fighting the United States? And, I put forth some rationales that might maybe explain it, but I was not satisfied with the arguments, just because I didn't think Hitler was that stupid, especially at that point. It wasn't in that video, but my next video, and I don't know why there's a delay, but one of my subscribers, an extremely well-read one named Ivan the Heathen, who I wish would make more videos than he does. He's made one or two, and I wish he would make more, and I wish he would make one on this topic. Brought up a bit of research, a book, and this book actually gives a very plausible and it's a well-documented explanation of what actually happened. If you go back into my video, Full Faith and Credit, that's where he started placing comments. He recommended the author and the book. I read several articles by the author. I added the book to my wish list. I have not bought it. and just coming to terms with how much I have to read, how far behind I am. I was going to wait until I had read it to do a video. I don't want to wait that long to put a video out on this topic. So I'm going to put out the information for the book. I'm going to ask Ivan Leheven if he has finished it, which I believe he was reading it at the time, to please consider doing a video on this topic. I'd be happy to forward people to it if he ever does that. But let me just go ahead and say, and the title of the book kind of gives away. Let's see, the title of the book is Hitler Attacks Pearl Harbor, Why the United States Declared War on Germany, and it's by an author named Richard F. Hill. That's I think it was published in the 90s, the mid-90s. So, interesting title. The premise of the book is that, in fact, the speech that Hitler gave was not a declaration of war. Let me repeat that. Germany did not declare war on the United States in World War II. Now that is an astounding statement to be made. Now, having read Hitler's speech, and it's been some months and I did not reread it to do this, I will say that essentially it is a description of events as they are on the ground. He's essentially saying that a state of war exists between, a de facto state of war exists between Germany and the United States. German Navy's fighting our U-boats. They're aiding our our enemies. A state of war exists. Somewhere in there, I guess, there's a lot of bellicose language, so it's viewed as a declaration of war. However, this is a quote from the Chicago Tribune the day after. This is something that Ivan Leheben put in the comments. It's from the book. Berlin, December 12th. Official radio received by AP. Spokesman at the White House, or Wilhelmstrasse, declares today that Adolf Hitler's speech was not a declaration of war against the United States. Technically, they said it was nothing but a statement of facts created by President Roosevelt's aggressive policy, a registration of a condition already existing between the United States and Germany. So this is the spokesman at Wilhelmstrasse, so the German government, saying that Hitler's speech from the previous day is not a declaration of war. Now, either he declared war and decided to backpedal, maybe there's an attempt here to get a couple days extra out of the war, but doesn't seem very likely. The book goes into a lot of, I've read some of the quotes, and I haven't read the book, but I've read some of his other articles. I'll try and put links to them. Quotes in the U.S. press and from the U.S. government, like the State Department, to this similar effect, that Germany had not declared war on the United States, and that's not why we declared war on them. So why did we declare war on them? Because there is a widespread belief in the American public, and probably to some degree within the American government, that Germany was involved, if not directly responsible, for the attack at Pearl Harbor. Hence the name of the book, Hitler Attacks Pearl Harbor. Apparently, very early on, within the first week, there was widespread belief that German military, the Wehrmacht or the Luftwaffe or the Kriegsmarine or some combination of these, had actually taken part. No one ever believed that the Japanese weren't also involved, so it wasn't a case of thinking that some German fleet had managed to circumnavigate the world, essentially, and attack all by itself, but the German military hardware had been used. Now, why would this be? Because there had been a huge war hysteria about Germany, but not about Japan. There's a widespread belief, a racist belief, that the Japanese were incapable of such an attack. It was technically beyond their ability to sail a fleet across the Pacific and attack a major U.S. military base. Of course, not beyond their capability if the President of the United States is offering up a sacrificial lamb, which is also relatively well documented. It's still disputed, but I think the case could be made pretty well. Ignoring that for now, though, that the Japanese would be incapable and also too cowardly to attempt such a thing, and so they would need German assistance. Now, within the first week or two, it became clear that there were no Luftwaffe planes there. There were no German battleships or German submarines or anything like. But the persistence remained, that the belief remained that the Germans had maybe sent advisors, and then later, at the very least, that they had probably been the political puppet masters behind Tokyo. That Tokyo would only have gone through and done this at the behest of the Germans. Now, this isn't true. When the war ended and the records of the German state became known and confiscated by the Allies, it became clear that the Germans were dead set against there ever being such a war between Japan and the United States, and that they didn't even know that it was going to happen. The Japanese kept them in the dark. The Germans' overriding goal, especially in the summer and fall of 1941, was for the Japanese to enter the war against the USSR. The Germans were involved in a life or death struggle with the USSR. Operation Barbarossa is the largest military invasion in history. It's the largest war in history. And contrary to kind of the myth, which more or less makes it seem as though they were on the cusp of victory up until Stalingrad, that first summer and winter, fall and winter of the war in 1941 was actually the physical turning point in World War II. This is the point when the German Wehrmacht bit off more than it could chew. This is surprisingly not well understood. I don't know why, because it's pretty open and shut. By even July and August, the Wehrmacht started to realize that their momentum was dropping, and that at the rate that it was declining, accounting for future logistical problems, especially regarding fuel, and even regarding more mundane things like ammunition, that the chances that they would advance across such a broad front all the way to Moscow, which was kind of like the minimalist goal, was extremely unlikely. And then once the rain set in autumn, the chances dropped nearly to zero. It's quite amazing that they got as far as they did. And that winter, there was a huge overextension, and the Wehrmacht had to retreat many hundreds of kilometers from the maximum eastern extent that it went. And anyway, they're involved in this enormous war, and it made perfect sense for them to desire the Japanese to attack the Soviets in Siberia. The Japanese and the Soviets had already fought, actually, in Siberia. In fact, there's a very long arms build-up antagonistic relationship between the Japanese and the Russians going back to Tsarist times. The problem here is that the Japanese, in their encounters with the Russians at places like Kulkangol and a few other places in the late 30s, really gotten their asses whipped, essentially. They were very reluctant to do this. They had become very engaged in China, and this is very odd. They decided that eventually, this is very, it is literally crazy, that they decided to go to war with the United States. A war that at the time, when they initiated it, they knew they had no real way of winning. A really good book on that, by the way, if you wanted to look at it from the Japanese perspective, is Culture and Power by Akira Iraye. I did a video on that called, I think, Culture and Power. That's a really good book. Hitler was dead. His goal vis-a-vis the United States was to placate the United States, to keep it out of the war as long as possible, preferably forever. He was in a losing war as it was, to put the entire might of the most powerful country in the world by a factor of 2 or 3 seems like a no-brainer in terms of strategy. So what happens here? The Americans at the end of the war figure out the Germans not only were not involved in Pearl Harbor, they had no idea that it even happened. Suddenly then the justification for the war goes away. Now, when the war was declared, the idea wasn't, oh, Hitler has made this declaration of war. It was, they've already attacked us. We've already been attacked by Germany. That's why we're going to war with Germany. We're going to war with Germany because they attacked us at Pearl Harbor, directly or indirectly. That was the justification. And the research of the book is, that's what it says in all the papers. The arguments made by the government are all along those lines. After the war ends and they discover this isn't true, all of a sudden we need to find a new casus belli. They look back, Hitler's speech, and now all of a sudden Hitler's speech is a declaration of war. During the war, no references, or it was extremely rare to reference the speech, or if it was referenced, it was in the context of, this isn't a basis for hostilities. This is a bellicose speech, but it's not a declaration of war. That's not why we're going to war. We're going to war because of the Nazis being involved in Pearl Harbor. After the war, realized this isn't true. Okay, let's make up a new story. We're going to war because of this bellicose speech. It's not that dissimilar from attacking Saddam Hussein for being involved in 9/11. Obviously, Saddam Hussein wasn't involved in 9/11. That idea, for some reason, was very, very common within the U.S. body politic. And it's probably not a coincidence. That's probably not an accident. Ideas like that have to be spread by somebody. And I don't know. Some of the stuff I read indicates that maybe Hill talks about this as well. Even when you see this and you've read the book, in the comments, make a video. I'd be curious to know. I don't know when I'm going to get to reading this book. I want to eventually. It sounds that important, but like I said, I'm totally swamped. So that's the story. I don't know that many more of the details. I'll put the links. The reviews of this book are very good. They're from other historians, and basically they're saying things to the like this is a scholarly, well-researched, well-referenced book that should cause a major reassessment of the narrative of World War II. It should. I can pretty much guarantee that it won't, because people are going to. This information's been out there now for a couple years, and they ignore it. We all want to be a white knight, and not an idiot, who was manipulated into the most catastrophic, war in history. So there's that. Now, a couple other things. A lot of people have, like, over the years, have said stuff like, how do you do videos like this? How do you talk? How do you speak? How do you get good at it? And I'm going to tell you, the only way you're going to get good at it is, there's two things. One is to know your shit. Like, if you don't know what you're talking about, it's very hard to be articulate when you're being a bullshit artist. There are people who can. There are amazing bullshit artists who have the most silver tongues imaginable, and they can go and talk about any topic and make it sound like honey. But you don't want to be spewing bullshit. You want to be correct. And so, the more that you know, the more that you read. And I really emphasize reading. I know there's an enormous amount of really good stuff that's available in other media. You can listen to lectures. You can listen to me. You can listen to the Mises Institute. You can listen to Brian. You can listen and listen and listen all day, every day, to podcasts, whatever else. Smart people who say smart things and have good vocabularies and all that. Cool, that's great. I highly recommend that you at least, that should be a supplement. That should be something that tells you where to do most of your reading. And then you should read a lot if you can. And you should be able to. There are some things that you need money to buy. There's a lot of other things that you can read without money. You can read Man, Economy, and State without money. You can read Human Action without money. Pretty much everything at the Mises Institute you can read on the computer without money, or relatively cheaply on Amazon. And now I know a lot of my subscribers do read a lot, and the most gratifying letters I get is when people come and say, I bought a whole bunch of the books that you recommended and I'm reading them. Do that. Do that, and then follow that where that goes. Don't only read the books that I tell you. Read the books that you read, and then whatever perks your interest in an area to develop, go further. Because here's another thing that I'm noticing. I get, and this goes back when people were saying, here, I do a book review on this book. It's an interesting book. I totally agree it's an interesting book, and I would like to read it, whatever it is, if it's Anarchy, State, and Utopia, or this book by Hill, Hitler Attacks Pearl Harbor, or God knows, thousands and thousands of worthy titles. Look, I only have so much time, I have so many books, and I appreciate the recommendations, but this is what I would really like. If more people would actually, make videos, and they can review books. Like, the other way you're going to get good at speaking isn't just to know your shit, it's to actually speak. Like, many people have told me, like, oh, I just don't feel like I'm a good enough speaker to start making videos. Well, that's a catch-22. You're never going to start making videos if you're going to wait till you're articulate first. The way to get to articulate is to speak. And I think that dialogue with a person is probably better, but speaking into a camera, a vlog, a narrative, declaiming something, the only way you're going to get good at it is practicing it. I don't have any real formal training in public speaking. I had a lot of experience doing it because when I was in Boy Scouts, I was the head of my troop for a long time, and so that meant every week I had to get up in front of 30 or 40 or 50 people and talk. And so there's a certain degree of, it doesn't bother me. I don't have any stage fright issues when it comes to public speaking, and also I was a performer, so I'm used to being on stage, although normally I was playing an instrument and not speaking. You're still in front of an audience. But I'm not in front of an audience now. I'm in front of a camera. There's a little tiny camera here. and I'm in an empty room, although my roommates can probably hear me. But the only way you're going to get good is if you practice, and if you want to make a video and not upload it and, just look at your pros and then analyze it. I know when I analyze my videos, there are things that I notice. I use filler words. You can really tell when I know. I don't ever write out what I'm going to do, but very often I'll think about ahead of time, what points do I want to cover, and what narrative how do I want to weave them together. It's always, a narrative is really, really important. And so, when I do my videos like on liberals, bashing liberals, I think, what are all the points that I want to cover, and what do I think is the most persuasive way to string them together. Make notes if you have to. I don't like to make notes because I think it's more distracting than helpful. I made a couple notes this time, just the name of the book and the quote, but that's it. And then I just go with it. And you can actually almost tell, if you look really closely, you can see little moments where I pause, and that's me thinking, okay, what's the other thing I want to say? What am I not forgetting? And actually, there's been quite a few videos where I have forgotten, sometimes major important things, but usually I get most of it. When I don't have it really thought out and I don't know that much about the topic, I do use a lot of filler words, like or Actually, my previous video, there were so many you know. I'm very self-conscious about it when I listen to it again. If you're concerned about your speaking, record the videos before you upload them. Watch them, see what's different, and then try it again, and then once you get something that you think is passable, upload it. And the other thing is, read a book that no one's read before and do a video about it. Find a topic, or and there's so many, I have so many subscribers from other countries. Look, I'm going to name some places and people are going to know who I'm talking about, but from Iceland, from India, from the UK, from Sweden, from Finland, from Norway, from Brazil, from Poland, I don't think I have any from Russia, but these are all, it sounds stupid, but there's so much of the libertarian narrative is coming from white guys in the United States. And yes, there's a couple in Canada and a couple in Australia, Australians. I know I have a lot of subscribers there. A couple people in the UK. It's so small, and it makes it very easy for people to dismiss this as an ideology that is restricted to a relatively narrow demographic. And so if you're a member if you're somebody who's not in that demographic, you could do a great deal for propagating the ideology, the ideas, just to go out and then speak out. The other thing is, everyone has something to contribute, whether they think, you say, oh, you read all these books and I haven't. Everyone has their own perspective, and what resonates with people varies a lot. For some people, they really like my style. I know a lot of my subscribers really, really like the way that I speak, and they really like the type of videos that I make, and they just think, oh, that's great, and I think that you should. I've had people tell me, oh, you should be more popular than Stefan Molyneux or whatever. But that's your personal opinion. My speaking style, the way I do videos, it's not that appealing to most people. But the thing is, you might be appealing to some subset of the population that, for whatever reason, preferences like that, they matter, and it's one more voice in the chorus. And I don't know how long I've been advocating, those of you who don't make videos, and it's not an obligation. Please don't construe this, and I'm telling you have to do it because you owe it to the movement or blah blah blah. Or you owe it to me. You don't owe it to me. You don't owe it to the movement. But if you believe in the ideas and you believe in the arguments, why would you not do it? Why would you not engage in that level? You're adding one more voice, and I'm not going to overemphasize that and say, oh, if we could just if all my subscribers started making videos, we'd have Libertopia tomorrow. No, I'm not delusional, but it would help, and it would have more of a dialogue. And then, I think I could farm some of this stuff out. Man, I could go on my bookshelf and be like, okay, who wants to read whatever? And then they could read it, and then they could upload a video about it or whatever. I know that's just kind of my idea, because the more I'm looking at my bookshelf and monitoring how fast I read and thinking how much time I'm going to have, the more daunted I am. The other thing here is I'm going to probably go back to work next week, which is going to put a nix on how much I can do, I think. I don't know if I'll be able to upload videos. I don't know if I'll be able to record videos. I don't know how much I'll be able to read. I just don't know. So, there's a lot of you out there who are watching and watching and watching. Most of you don't even comment, which, okay, fine, you don't owe it. It makes it a little odd for me when somebody who has been watching for a long time but has never commented suddenly out of the blue is like, okay, I've been watching you for years and years and years. And it's like, okay, whoa, I don't even know who you are, and yet you have this degree of familiarity with me that, you know, I don't, it's not reciprocal. I don't know anything about you. It's just kind of, I don't mind. It's just a little weird. But then the other thing is, you're taking in all this information and you're processing it, and that's good. That's the most important thing, really. But then why not share what you've learned and learn something that someone else doesn't know? You know, I don't. It seems like there's like this really small group of people who do all the reading, and most everybody else just doesn't. I don't. Reading is not something that takes a fucking huge amount of your time. It's not like I have. I mean, the last couple months I've basically had off, but that's unusual. It's not like I have, you know, a sabbatical at a university and I have all the time in my life to like do research, and so it falls on me. Like, I don't. I have a job. When I work, it's 12 hours a day, every day, for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And sometimes, and I know I've uploaded videos, and so people think I just sit there all day. Not usually. Not usually. You know, I have a busy life most of the time. Today, this week, no. Not when I had mono, no. But most of the time. You know, I'm able to do this, and I don't speed read. I actually have difficulty reading. Those of you who have like read the stuff that I write know that I actually have a really hard time with like spelling and phonating. Like, it's not easy for me, but I'm interested, so I do it. And if you're interested, you should do it too. And the other reason I would think people should do videos is if it's difficult for you, if it's something that you have trepidation about or you have qualms about, then it's a good challenge. It's good to challenge yourself to do something that you're not comfortable with. And having good speaking skills is really, really useful in so many situations. You know, the fact that I'm able to speak well has helped me at work repeatedly. And mostly in a very subtle way, but sometimes in a very explicit way. You know, when I go and have debates with people, and when I have debates in real life, which I don't do that often, I win every time. And when I say I win, I get the other person to essentially admit they have no argument against me and that what I'm saying is persuasive. That's happened every time. But if you only like do text and you never speak, that's not going to happen for you. So, and it's just a useful social skill to have. It's nice to be able to hold a conversation. You know, it's, you know, there I go again. But it's a really good skill to have, and it's something that anybody can have if they work at it. But if you're going to put off working at it until you feel you've already achieved your goal, you know, it's kind of like, I want to be able to lift, you know, a whole bunch of weight, but I'm not going to even go to the gym because I'm not strong enough to lift that kind of weight yet. Well, I mean, that attitude's not going to get you anywhere. So, I don't know how many more videos I'm going to be uploading before I have to go. I have a couple ideas for some. This whole fucking Ken Ham, Bill Nye, I don't like either. Well, actually, Ken Ham is really entertaining, but, you know, Bill Nye, I'm not going to do a video on that right now, though. But yeah, if any of you like has an idea for a book you want to read that you don't think anyone's read, or you want to start doing videos, ask me, tell me you're going to do it. I'll link to you. I'll give you a little traffic. I don't have like tons and tons of subscribers or anything like that, but I can help you out a little bit if you don't have any subscribers or you don't have anybody who's watched, because I know what it is. The first time you upload a video, no one's going to watch it, you know, unless you're a huge media whore. Like, if you go back and look at my early videos, they still have like 40, 50 views, a lot of them. And when I first uploaded them, they would have had like 10. And it was kind of like, is anyone listening? And slowly, people started listening. It took years, but, you know. But also, if you're just starting, like, if you're worried about your speech patterns or how persuasive you are, then, you know, it's not a bad thing that your necessarily first videos aren't going to probably garner that much attention. But you know what? You might surprise yourself. You know, but until you do it, it's not going to happen. So, okay, I realize there's like a two-part video, one about like something important and one, you know, something about maybe personally interesting but less historically important. But yeah, I'll put in links to the book. Let me read it one more time. Hitler Attacks Pearl Harbor, Why the United States Declared War on Germany by Richard F. Hill. I found one article that he had actually put on Luraco back in 2006. There were other things that he had written, and I'll try and find those links as well. But that's the basis. That's the basics of it. I mean, even if you see this and you finished it, I thought you were reading it at the time or about to. It's been a couple months, so I'm assuming that maybe you have. By all means, put up a video. I'll put a link to it. Definitely an important topic. Definitely an interesting topic. And you know, for those of you out there who are thinking about doing videos and just haven't, please do. If you've never considered it, think about it. And even if you are like the white American, you know, you already fit in that narrow demographic of the cliched libertarian, that's fine. Like, you might just resonate, and there might just be, you might be photogenic in a way that some people, you know, it's even if you persuade or help persuade or do anything for just a few people, that could be the difference. You know, all of us had some minor event usually. I mean, very few of us like were persuaded because, you know, I don't know, you accidentally ended up in an elevator with Mary Rothbard or something like that. It's little things that pique our interest that get us going, and you might have the qualities that somebody likes. And then also, don't just do libertarian videos. If you're interested in something else, this is something I wish we saw. I should probably do this more, although I don't know what else I'd be really interested in other than guys. But like, you know, if you're say really interested in skiing or some kind of video games, and I don't know how many of my subscribers are gamers. Yeah, I have so many people tell me like, well, I don't really watch your videos. I listen to them as I play games all day. You know, start a community that's based on that, but then insert your libertarian rhetoric in there. You know, that can't hurt. So, and it keeps you interested. So, you know, why not do it? All right. So that's it, and I think I'll talk to you all later. Bye bye.